G'day everyone. As most of you already know, the Casio Royale is, dollar for dollar, one of the best value watches you can buy today. But today a new contender from China has risen up to this challenge and will now try to steal that title from the Royale. So let's get stuck into the main event. In the champions corner, we have the Casio Royale AE 1200. The audience knows that the Royale has had its share of bumps and scrapes over its career, and it's showing a bit, but it still keeps on going and does so much for so little. Well, I'll wait, they're announcing the contender now. And in the challengers area, we have the Sinoc Illuminous 9619. A different moniker indeed for a new wristwatch entry. I'm looking at it now and already I'm seeing it might have a few things riding against it in this showdown, even though they look almost evenly matched, but we'll head into the weigh-in and the main event to see how it stacks up. And here they are, head to head. Very little difference at all in dimensions, but the Sinoc is a bit chunkier on thickness. The rest of the dimensions are very close to each other, but that water resistance might hurt Sinoc later in the match. But you can't deny that price difference. One Casio could buy you at least 5 Sinocs. But let's look at the events they'll be competing in. Some of these criteria will be more important than others for the judges when they do their scoring, and another thing that'll keep them on their toes is the fact that the Royale has a new strap and may affect how it wears in general. And now it's on. And first off, we have the watches out of their plastics and on the wrist. On first impressions, there's very little to it. Both wear proportionately well, and save for those plastic bracelets, they're quite comfortable. The dimensions are pretty even, so it's going to be a hard one to call, so they're going to defer to the video referee and a bit more testing to be sure. And, hang on, what's this? Yes, this is where the Sinoc's extra thickness plays against it. Check those angle shots up close and you can see the Casio's case back sits almost flat with the case, but the Sinoc's is noticeably raised. And now they're going to do a sleeve test, and there's very, very little between them in this round, but the judges will probably give this one to the Royale by a hair's breadth. Moving into round 2, and we're checking the movements. The Sinoc and the Royale both tick away with a quartz module, and without any accurate measuring tools available, we can't pick a winner here. The Royale is a bit more transparent with what module it's using to power itself, while the Sinoc is a bit of a mysterious character here. They look and run the same, so for now the judges will probably score this a tie and just move on to the third round. And here is where the Royale will assert its dominance. And no surprises, the crowd's getting wild for its performance here. It's got its 5 different time zones to track and switch over to, 5 separate alarms and a countdown timer, a stopwatch and a backlight. But I don't think it's going to matter much. Here comes Sinoc and, yeah. As we said at the beginning, it was going to have a tough fight, and this is where we're starting to see the gaps. 2 times, 1 alarm, and a stopwatch. And to add a bit of insult to injury, the Royale has given the crowd a bit of showboating with its additional mute feature, so no beeps if you want to silence. If the Sinoc had any saving grace in this round, it's that its sound is a bit more audible, so better for the heavy sleeper or the hard of hearing, but the Royale commands a big victory in this round. And moving into the 4th round with appearance, and I have a bad feeling the previous round may have the Sinoc rattled, and it's really starting to show here. At a glance, the competitors look the same, but let's close up on their displays and oh no, what's going on? The Sinoc! Its analog timekeeping module looks anything but. It's got the 5-minute markers printed, but the digital readout is just a random kaleidoscope of lines. The Casio, though, has got this part down pat. Not crystal clear or anything that'll whip the crowds up, but it does what it's supposed to do. Oh dear. And the Sinoc struggles yet again with that middle right display showing the abbreviated day of the week. The Royale squeezes that information almost effortlessly on its main display in comparison, and instead has a global map which visually looks amazing and is functional too. And Sinoc squandered that opportunity. Looking at text on the dial, both are informative yet suffer the same word spaghetti problem. But that's not going to matter. The Casio's display modules leave the Sinoc in the dust this round, and it'll need a miracle to come back from this. And we move into the buttons round. And the Royale's buttons, when they're compared to its other Casio brethren, are readily present and easily pushed to select the desired function. But the Sinoke not only counters this with a similar design, but its buttons seem to have a bit more tactility. Yes, each button that's pushed feels like it's got a tiny bit of resistance to it. The Royals in comparison is a bit more spongy. Overall, they both hold their own very well, but by a small margin, the Sinoke manages to claw back a win in this round to try and remain a contender. Moving over to the next round now, when both pieces are posing with casebacks exposed. The crowds aren't really excited by either competitor, with only laser-etched branding and general information on display. And 4 screws, 2 up, 2 down, keeping it in place. The judges are having a hard time with this one though. On the one hand, the Royale's etching is a bit more visible compared to the Sinoke, but the Sinoke counters with a quirky little swimmer character in the middle. This commentator thinks that it's a bit misleading when you factor in its advertised water resistance, but the judges are still impressed based on the very slight interest it's generating from the crowd, so this round may controversially end in a tie. Going into the next round, and we're looking at the crystals, and bada boom bada bing, it ends almost as quickly as it begins. Both contenders are sporting a plastic acrylic crystal, so there's no clear advantages here. Both will scratch easily if you just look at them the wrong way, but at least some polywatch will set them straight again. It'll be a tie again for this round. Jumping into the next round, and the bracelet category is a tough one to judge because the Casio's old bracelet gave up the ghost and had to be replaced. But the judges remember it being very rough and plasticky. The Sinoke stock bracelet makes no exception in this round, unfortunately, as it shares similar characteristics to its Royale rival. Maybe in the cooler weather both watch straps would be a better fit, but in the hotter climates it sure makes those wrists feel sweaty. I don't think anyone has a clear advantage here, so it's likely going to be a tie for this round. And now the round the lumophobes in the crowd have been waiting for. The Royale and Sinoke don't have loom but boast backlights, so let's see how they fare. And they're squaring off. The buttons are pushed. Whoa! Oh my gosh, did you see that? The Royale backlight rarely fails to disappoint, but the Sinoke simply went nuclear. That display is crisper and brighter than the Royale and hangs on just a little longer after the button push. What an incredible comeback from the Sinoke. You're joking. Sinoke not only shines brighter and longer, but it can change its lighting color by holding its button. And it's rubbing it in the Royale's face in the previous rounds with its multicolored flash. Oh boy, the crowd didn't expect that. And that round obviously has a clear winner. What a comeback from the underdog Sinoke. And after that exhilarating round, we're almost at the end of this epic match, and you can easily see the strain on the faces of both opponents here. It's been a tough match up until now, so one of our last rounds will see them cool off together in the water resistance, so they're off to get rinsed. For both watchers, it's a case of so far, so good. Both the Royale and the Sinoke seem unfazed by the water splash, and this is no surprise for our veteran Royale, a simple case of being there, done that. But now the Royale kicks it up a notch and goes in for a full bath experience. The Sinoke looks nervous, but if it wants to keep toe-to-toe with the Royale, it has to follow suit. Will it throw its own caution to the wind? Yes! This, ladies and gentlemen, is a risky move for the plucky Sinoke. Both our contenders will stay under for 5 minutes. The Royale will think this is a walk in the park, but for the Sinoke, this will determine if it can live up to its swimmer caseback logo. We're cutting to a commercial break now, so we're back to continue with the unfolding action. Welcome back. So the Royale and the Sinoke are coming out of the water now, and predictably so, the Royale looks refreshed and unfazed by everything. And the Sinoke's gamble paid off as it emerges still in running order. This may not be deep-sea diving, but it proves that both watchers at least can survive watering the plants or a quick swim in the pool, and that'll be about as wet as at least 95% of wearers would ever get them. The crowd showing its respect to the Sinoke for its bravery, and it rightly deserves it, but given that we all know the Royale could go deeper for longer if it had to, the judges will probably put that in its favour. Now we're getting into the tail end of this match and checking the branding, and when the camera pans on the Royale, the crowd makes it clear it is the favourite here. Everyone knows Casio, everyone loves Casio, and rightfully so when you see just what it can offer. The Sinoke, oh well, it's got to be said it's held up pretty well through the rounds and has pulled a few surprises, but it doesn't have the same cachet or recognition yet, so the Casio will likely steal this round. And now we're at the final round of this showdown, where pricing and value come into play. The judges will have a tough one on their hands. The Royale had more interesting and useful display points and a heap more functionality than the Sinoke, and on paper it fared better in deeper waters too. But the Sinoke held its own in some areas and blew the Royale away with its fancy light work. Not to mention that it's only 10 Aussie dollars to boot compared to 55 for the Royale. Not Rolex money, but still a significant saving for some. And that brings us to the end of this matchup. The judges have made their scores and now the verdict's in. The scorecard tally is up. And the winner, and still champion, is the Casio Royale AE 1200. Yep. Without much shock, the Royale pulls off the victory. But Sinoke take a bow today. You may have lost, but tomorrow is another day. And if that scorecard shows anything, it wasn't the whitewash the crowd was expecting. It held back and even beat the Royale in nearly half of those rounds. But in the end, the Royale module just had too many features for the Sinoke to counter, and it made much better use of its screen real estate. This has been a Troppo Time broadcast. We'll keep you posted for the next viewing, but that's it for now, and thanks for watching, eh?